Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something really core to, well, everything, stronger together.
hmm
We're going to explore what makes relationships, marriages, friendships, partnerships truly strong and healthy.
Yeah, the foundations.
Exactly. Our source material today is quite interesting. It's a sermon that pulls from various ancient texts, promising these sort of timeless insights into connection.
Right.
So our mission really is to pull out the key pillars, the essentials for building those powerful connections. And honestly, there's some wisdom in these old texts that might surprise you with how relevant it still feels.
It really is a profound starting point. The source actually kicks off with Genesis. It is not good that the man should be alone.
Okay.
And that just sets the scene perfectly. It's not just romantic, it's fundamental.
Yeah.
Companionship,
Mm,
needing connection.
that makes sense.
And then you've got Ecclesiastes, which gets super practical about why togetherness works.
Yeah. Like what?
Well, things like two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. Simple.
Right. Right. Shared effort, shared reward.
Exactly. And if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. Or even just, if two lie together, they keep warm.
Huh. Yeah. Very practical.
It is. But then there's this powerful line. Though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken.
That's strong imagery. A threefold cord.
It really is.
Yeah.
And while, yes, the source sermon does eventually focus specifically on marriage, you can immediately see how these ideas apply much, much more broadly to almost any relationship that matters to you.
Okay, great setup. So let's dive in. Let's unpack these pillars. The first one identified is trust and transparency. It seems obvious, maybe, but foundational.
Absolutely foundational.
So how does vulnerability fit into building that trust? Because that can feel risky.
It is risky, and that's kind of the point. The source argues trust is built precisely on that vulnerability and consistency, integrity too.
Okay.
It uses this really striking image from Genesis, describing the first couple as naked and not ashamed, which paints this picture of just complete openness, zero fear, no need to hide anything spiritually, emotionally, physically, just being totally authentic with each other.
A state of, total openness. So what happens when that's lost? I mean, obviously things went wrong in that story.
Well, exactly. The source then points to how shame enters the picture. And shame creates this deep-seated urge to hide, not just from God in that context, but from each other too. There's a quote referenced from Dr. R.C. Sproul describing us as potentially becoming cosmic fugitives, always looking for darkness, trying not to be seen or known.
Wow. Cosmic fugitives. That's intense.
It is, but it highlights the contrast. The source connects this to the idea of salvation, being brought out of that hiding and into the light, where you can again experience being, naked without being ashamed, metaphorically speaking, being fully seen and accepted.
So moving from hiding to being fully known, that's a huge shift.
It's massive,
Yeah.
and it's echoed elsewhere, like in Luke, warning that, nothing covered shall not be revealed. Secrets eventually come out.
Okay.
The core idea here is that anything hidden, any unconfessed stuff builds a wall. It festers.
Right.
And the only way to real healing and recovery in the relationship is sort of taking down the masks, being honest. The source puts it starkly. Unconfessed and unrepented sin is unforgiven sin.
Oof.
Yeah. Relationally, that means those hidden things, those secrets or unresolved issues, they actually block true forgiveness and connection. You have to bring it into the open for the relationship to thrive.
Okay, I can see that. It's about radical honesty, essentially, shedding the pretense. All right, moving to the next pillar, humility. This one caught my eye. The sermon talks about it not as making yourself small, but seeing yourself small. What's the difference there? How does that play out?
That's a really key distinction. Humility here is defined as having a modest or low view of one's importance.
Okay, importance.
Yeah. So seeing yourself small means understanding your place in the bigger picture. You're not the center of the universe. Others have value, maybe even, the source suggests, esteeming them as better than yourself in certain ways.
Esteeming others as better. How does that help relationships?
Well, the source highlights a few ways. First, it fosters unity. Humility changes the dynamic from like a competition
Right.
to a partnership where you recognize different roles, different strengths. It helps create harmony because you're focused on valuing the other person.
Okay.
The book of Romans is referenced here, advising us not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment.
Sober judgment, realistic self-assessment.
Exactly. It uses the analogy of a body, many parts, different functions. None is the whole body. And there's this phrase the sermon apparently used, stay in your lane.
Huh. I like that.
Direct.
It is. It suggests that if we humbly admit when we've overstepped or need to focus on our own part, a lot of friction disappears.
Okay, stay in your lane. That resonates. You know, another point from the source on this that seemed, well, surprising maybe, was about Adam in Genesis getting a job before Eve showed up. How does that connect to humility? Yeah, that's a fascinating point the source makes about distinct roles again. So Genesis shows Adam given work, tend the garden, follow rule before Eve's creation.
Right.
And the sermon's take is, well, you can't have a helpmeet without having something for her to help you with.
Huh. Okay.
And it adds kind of pointedly, how can you ask for submission when you don't even have a mission to submit under?
Wow. Okay. So it's framing it as a call to responsibility, especially for men in that context.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes. A God-given responsibility to have a purpose, a direction, to work, provide, maybe teach or guide. It's about humbly taking up your specific responsibilities within that shared life.
Owning your part of the partnership. Okay.
Yeah.
And how does humility link to, say, resolving conflict
Yeah,
or serving each other?
that's the other big aspect. Philippians is quoted, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves.
More significant.
Yeah. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. The source is really clear. Selfishness and conceit, they kill relationships.
Makes sense.
But if you genuinely, humbly see your partner as more significant, conflicts tend to resolve faster. The force asks you to imagine, what if both people were rushing to serve the other first?
Right.
Or in an argument, racing to see who could apologize first or make things right?
That would certainly change things.
It transforms the dynamic entirely.
Yeah, right.
And the source points to Christ's example as the ultimate model of that kind of humility.
It's a powerful picture. Tough to live up to, I imagine, especially when things get heated. Okay, let's move to communication. This feels huge. Maybe the most critical pillar, the power of words.
Oh, absolutely. The source points out that the book of James dedicates pretty much a whole chapter 3, just to the tongue, its power.
Really, an entire chapter.
Yep. And the sermon apparently included some memorable grandmother sayings.
Oh, like what?
One was a numb everything good fi, eat good fi talk.
Yeah.
Basically, if it tastes good, talk about it. Share the good stuff.
Okay.
And a more blunt one. If you have nothing good to say, shut your mouth. Okay, direct advice. Keep quiet if it's not positive.
Pretty much. James uses these analogies. The tongue is small, like a horse's bit or a ship's rudder, but it controls the whole thing. Immense power from something small.
But it can also be dangerous.
Hugely dangerous. James calls it a fire, a world of unrighteousness, even a restless evil full of deadly poison.
Wow. Strong language.
It is, because as it says, from the same mouth come blessing and cursing, and Proverbs puts it so clearly, death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Death and life, that's profound.
It really is. Our words can literally speak life into a relationship, help it grow, or they can cause it to stagnate, to wither. They can build someone up.
Yeah.
Or break their spirit. And Proverbs again offers that practical tip. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Simple cause and effect. So what are some of the practical outcomes? Good versus bad communication.
Well, the source lists quite a few contrasts. Good communication builds intimacy. Bad destroys it.
Okay.
Good communication clarifies expectations. Avoids those you should have known moments because, well, babe, I can't read your mind.
Yes, been there.
Right. Whereas poor communication leads to unmet expectations. Good communication builds trust. Bad fosters distrust. Good helps resolve conflict. Bad causes it.
It seems to impact everything.
It really does. Builds the spirit or breaks it. There's even a warning pool from 1 Corinthians. Don't allow bad communication to corrupt good morals.
So negativity can spread.
Exactly. And the positive guidance from Colossians is key. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt.
Seasoned with salt, meaning?
Meaning thoughtful, valuable, maybe even preserving the good in the relationship. Not bland, not corrosive. And just briefly, the source also touched on that old saying, the family that prays together stays together, connecting communication to spiritual unity too.
Got it. Okay, really practical stuff there. Now, let's approach a pillar that can sometimes be tricky or controversial for people today. Love and submission, particularly drawing from Ephesians chapter 5. Can you help us understand the dynamic presented in the source material here? It talks about respect too.
Yes, this is definitely a section that requires careful handling, sticking closely to how the source interprets the text. Ephesians 5 outlines specific roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
For wives, the text says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. And the reasoning given is, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church.
Right, that's the core verse often cited.
It is, and the sermon's interpretation emphasizes that this instruction, within its context, asks no questions of the deservingness of the husband. It's framed as an act of humility and submission directed ultimately towards God, calling wives in that framework to align respectfully with their husbands. Not necessarily about inherent worth, but about structure and roles as presented in that text.
Okay. And what about for the husbands? Is there a corresponding instruction?
There is, and it's incredibly demanding. The text says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Love as Christ loved the church. That's a high bar.
It's an extremely high bar. The sermon highlighted something interesting. Paul never tells wives to love their husbands in this passage, but he mandates it for husbands.
Oh, that is interesting.
The message interpreted is, even if she does not love you, love her like Christ loves the church. It's presented as an unconditional, sacrificial love.
Sacrificial. How so?
Well, like Christ gave himself for the church. The idea is a husband's love should be self-giving, aiming to build her up, to help her flourish, to sanctify and cleanse it, presenting her as glorious. It's about deeply investing in her well-being.
So it's a profound, active, self-giving love being mandated.
Exactly. And it connects back to Genesis again. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. And that famous line about leaving parents and becoming one flesh. It's described as a great mystery, this deep bond. And then, just to round it off, it reiterates for wives to see that she reveres her husband.
Reveres. What does that mean exactly? Is it fear?
Good question. The source clarifies the Greek word used, phobio, can mean fear, but in context it's interpreted more as reverence, awe, deep respect. Holding the husband in high esteem, aligning with that structure laid out.
Okay, that provides a lot more context to those passages as presented in the source. Thank you for walking us through that carefully. Now, finally, the source material also lists accountability as the fifth pillar.
Yes, that's right. Accountability is listed as essential. Now, it's worth noting that the specific sermon material we're drawing from for this deep dive didn't elaborate much further on this particular pillar within this section. But we can definitely infer its importance, right? From everything else we've discussed. I mean, how can you have real trust and transparency without accountability?
True. They seem linked.
Or genuine humility without being accountable for your mistakes, for staying in your lane. Accountability feels like the mechanism that makes the other pillars actually work in practice. It ensures that trust, honesty, and that mutual respect remain central.
That makes sense. It ties things together.
So just to quickly recap the pillars we've explored based on this source, we had trust and transparency.
Right. The foundation.
Then humility.
Seeing yourself small, staying in your lane.
Then communication.
The power of the tongue, life and death.
Then that dynamic of love and respect, as outlined in Ephesians.
Sacrificial love, respectful alignment.
And finally, accountability, holding it all together.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How these ancient ideas drawn from these texts offer such, well, practical advice for anyone wanting stronger connections today.
Absolutely. Not just marriage, but friendships, family.
Definitely. So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Given how much emphasis these texts place on transparency and humility, how might embracing even a little more openness, maybe in just one small way, change the dynamic in one of your key relationships this week?
That's a good question.
Or maybe think about this. What would it actually look like for you to put that idea of esteeming others more significant than yourselves into practice in just one everyday interaction? Something concrete.
Yeah, what would that tangible action be?
Exactly. Some food for thought. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.